This project examines the digital mirror, social media, and student behavior. It is officially entitled An Investigation into Educational Stakeholders' Perspectives on the Effect of Social Media Usage on the Behavior of Secondary School Students within the town of St. George's. The student researchers are Ria Williams, Keith St. Paul, and Frankson D.S. Marshall.
In the heart of St. George, a silent revolution is happening in the palms of our students' hands. Social media is no longer just a tool, it is a digital landscape where our youth live, learn, and socialize. From the classroom to the schoolyard, online interaction now shape how students think, speak, and behave. For many secondary school students, platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and WhatsApp are part of everyday life. These platforms influence friendships, self image, communication styles, and even discipline within schools. But as screen time increases, educators and parents are beginning to ask an important question. What is the cost of these constant connectivity? Our research investigated the perspectives of those on the front lines, the educational stakeholders. We sought to understand how social media is reshaping the behavior, communication, and emotional responses of secondary school students across St. George. By listening to teachers, school administrators, and students themselves, this study examines whether social media is simply a modern form of communication or a growing influence that is challenging traditional classroom norms and students' discipline.
Good evening, colleagues. For this presentation of our methodology, we employed a convergent parallel mixed methods design, and this entails quantitative and qualitative data, which were collected and analyzed independently, then integrated to develop a complete understanding of our research problem. So, in our quantitative component, we had our student surveys, which we had a descriptive survey, and it was in a form of a structured electronic questionnaire. We had a stratified random sampling of 50 students from 5 secondary schools within St. George's, categorized by school, form level, and gender. However, we got a total of 43 completed surveys, which had an 86% response rate. And in our qualitative component, our stakeholders or education stakeholders interviews, we had a semi-structured interview where we had a purposive sampling of 9 key education stakeholders, which entail principal, teacher, attendance officer, guidance counselor, and a district officer. So in our standardized interview with full informed consent and confidentiality guaranteed to our respondents as well. So from our data collection and ethical protocol, we had the formal consent obtained from schools and parents for the student participation. We also gave all the participants clear information about the study's purpose, their voluntary participation, and their right to withdraw. Our strict measures ensured anonymity, confidentiality, and a scheduled date for our data destruction. So also, some of the key challenges we have for logistics included securing the timely school access to interview the students, scheduling of stakeholders during the busy and end time period of our school closure, and achieving the full target sample. These were addressed through persistent follow up and flexibility in scheduling and the in-person facilitation of the interviews and questionnaires. Okay, so through our quantitative data, we analyze our Google Forms and Excel for descriptive statistics and the visualization using the tables and the graphs and the bar charts. Then we had our qualitative data where we had our interview transcripts, which were thematically analyzed to identify the key patterns and insights. And then we had our integration of our findings from both data sets, which were compared and synthesized to provide a nuanced, evidence based understanding of our social media's impact on our students' behavior. So, this method or methodology, it gave us a dual faceted approach, ensured that the findings were both representative of the student population and it deeply contextualized by our educators' expertise. And now turn you over to our colleague, which will give you a formal understanding or continuation of our research.
What did the data reveal? The findings were a mix of connectivity and concern. Firstly, a whopping 72% of students surveyed reported that they began using social media by age 12 or younger. Additionally, it was clear that platforms which provided for the viewing and creation of visual and video content were kings, with TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram considerably more popular than all other options. Interestingly, students do recognize the harm of social media as it relates to sleep and focus, but they admit that they struggle with self-regulation. The major findings, though, were worrying. First, disinhibition. 35.7% of students admit to using angrier language online than in person. From principals, district education officers, guidance counselors, and school attendance officers, the feedback left more cause for concern. First, online beef, where they report that 90% of school fights now originate from social media. Then we have external escalation, where conflicts involve gangs or crews called in via WhatsApp while school is in progress. Additionally, we have the issue of communication. Stakeholders noted significant informalization of language. Academic essays are increasingly peppered with internet slang and tech speak, blurring the lines between formal education and social interaction. Lamenting the overwhelming influence of social media on secondary school students, one secondary school principal commented, "They do not want to listen to the teachers or me, but are easily influenced by their favorite Instagram model or TikToker. Nevertheless, interestingly enough, they will not use the same platforms to learn." The conclusion is clear. Social media is an inescapable force. While it offers connectivity, without guidance, broad ministry-level national policies on its use, and proactive measures from secondary schools, it erodes the behavioral and academic standards of our institutions. In reaction to the findings, we have made 3 strategic but directed and targeted proposals. 1, digital literacy, an initiative which will be mandatory for all secondary schools in St. George's, at first outlined as a 2-year pilot program. 2, peer mentors, establishing digital well-being ambassadors at Form 4 and 5 to mentor younger peers. And 3, PTA support, hosting parent workshops to establish consistent and digital boundaries between home and school. By bridging the gap between the digital and the physical, we can ensure that the students of St. George are not just consumers of content, but responsible citizens of the world. Thank you for watching.